We are happy to announce that this episode of the SWW show is partially brought to you by Humble Bundle. Well, not really. We are part of the Humble Bundle referral program, and we just wanted to say that if you like really cheap games and maybe helping charity pending the Humble thing going on, all you have to do is go to humblebundle.com/partner equals SWW. That's right, humblebundle.com/partner equals SWW. And you just do your normal stuff, and it just kind of helps us get a couple bucks here and there. Maybe it helps AJ get his lights, maybe it's Mike camera, maybe we actually pay Corey for helping us out. But again, if you're going to go buy games anyway, it might be worth checking out. Hello everyone, and welcome back to one of these interview episodes of the SWW show. I'm Mike. Today with me, a special guest from... I actually don't know where our guest is from. To get us started, do you mind introducing yourself and game we're here to talk about?
Hey, yeah, okay. Online I go by Neverjam, and I make this game called SpiderHeck. It's about spiders with laser swords fighting each other in deadly combat. It's like a combat platformer, physicsy type thing / party game. And I am from a country known as Latvia.
So as I said that, I actually saw your Twitter profile, and I was like, I don't know if I can pronounce that. It could be. I know I've heard of the country, but it's definitely not one that's like, as you are aware, it's not like one I hear every day on the news, realistically. So it's like one of those. I'm like, how do I say that?
Yeah, it's definitely not one of the most famous countries out there. We don't dominate the headlines. Yes, in fact, whenever there's an American show that mentions the country, everyone is like, "Oh my God, they acknowledge that we exist," and it's the clip is usually shared around and everything.
I can imagine it's one of those like in a much smaller scale. So my hometown I grew up in was like a middle of nowhere, not famous town until like in 2015. It was like in America, it was like one of those stories like a town went under lockdown because a cop got killed, and then everyone learned my town. And every time I see it on the news now, I'm like, oh, people still remember it.
That's always a good reason for a town to be famous. I also come from a small town, even within Latvia. And also, it was always the criminal stories that made us famous.
Yeah, I don't know how we should feel about that one. But yeah, we're here to talk about SpiderHeck.
Yes, even though that was an interesting topic as well, yeah. Let's go, yeah. Go on, SpiderHeck.
So one of the things that I'm curious about, so as you said, it's spiders with laser swords, right? Is the whole kind of shtick.
Yeah.
So the laser swords, we can all get around what that is. Why spiders? Like, where were you, like, waking up one day and you saw a spider above your head? Like, why did you decide to make this spider-themed game?
Yeah, it's all based on a childhood trauma. No. It's like, I get this question a lot, and it's like a really unsatisfying answer, I think, in a way, but where I don't really care about spiders. And my community is outraged at this. Whenever I say it, they think I betrayed them. But reality is, I wanted to make a physics game, and I wanted like a little physics character. First thing I did was learn how to make a joint, and then I learned how to make, I was like, straight away, I'm going to make a human. And to make a human stand upright and move naturally, that's actually really complicated to do. So what I ended up doing was just sticking a bunch of legs on a ball and was like, wait, that's kind of cool. And then I showed it to close friends, and they had like this bodily primitive reaction to it. They were like, ooh, whoa, or yuck, or something. And I was like, okay, this is interesting. I'm on the right track here. And so I just kept developing from there, added crawling on walls and web swinging as spiders do.
I love the idea that you accidentally started creating a spider. Like, it's a mad scientist story almost. You're like, I slowly just made a thing, and next thing I knew, it had 8 legs and it started shooting webs, and I made this new creature.
Yeah, 100%. It's like I never had a plan going into this. It was just kind of, I don't know. So for context, this is like my first game project. I didn't know what am I capable of, or if I can pull off any of those grand ideas that might be in my mind. So it was very step by step where, I knew I can do amazing visuals because I'm no big artist. But I had some technical abilities because of the programming background. So I was like, all right, I can do physics. So let's see what I can make with physics. And somehow Spider was one of the first things I made. Well, sort of Spider-ish. Because technically we don't even have 8 legs. We have 7. And everyone keeps mentioning that all the time.
I want to go find like a Spider review site, and they're just like, this game's a fake Spider game. They only have 7. Like it's really not really even a spider. Like I can only imagine it's turning into.
I wouldn't be surprised if that exists because it's so weird. Like that is the first thing that people mention about the spiders. Never mind the amount of eyes. Never mind the fact that they're web swinging. Never mind the fact that they're using laser swords. No, it's the legs are not the correct amount. It's like the key element of a spider. It's been really interesting.
That is great. Let's jump on the laser swords then. So as we're talking, on my second monitor, I have your Steam page up, and I'm seeing that there's like the GIF on that front page you have, kind of with the two of them kind of facing back and forth on the things, and you can throw the swords. I want to talk about the mechanic. The thing that stands out to me about this one is that like guttural reaction when like two people hit with a sword. Like there's this level of like them being pushed back because like the force of the swords. I'm kind of curious if we could talk about like kind of mechanically how these swords kind of work, because the obvious comparison everyone would point to when you see laser sword is a lightsaber, but I think that heftiness of physics.
I don't know. Why would you?
I don't know where we get that from either. But like from like that physics heftiness though, it like really feels like something different is there.
I don't know if I can if me going into the technicals here is going to be that exciting. Like on a more abstract level, the way I approached this, because again, I had no idea going in how I'm going to pull this off, was I had no sound initially for the game, but I wanted to also post GIFs on the social medias because I wanted traction. Since I also wanted to turn it into a product. So what I focused on was specifically, even without sound, getting it as satisfying as possible. That was just a primary goal of can I make it without sound where you can still hear the impact even if the sound's not there. And I don't know if we do go into the technical, I mean it's a lot of it is the ragdolls on the spiders, I think, where I don't have to do the animation for them because it's all procedural because of the legs flinging around. So there's a lot of recoil from all the force that's getting applied. I don't have to do any of that manually. No, ask me more. I get really chaotic when I describe these things.
No, that's fine. So let's kind of talk into that. So I don't know if you call that. So my background is by trade. I have a game design degree, and then I do a bunch of game programming stuff. So I'm kind of very curious. Then let's talk. So these two swords are hitting. Is it full force, just you let the physical engine just do what it does? Or is it kind of like you kind of went in and kind of made it a little more oomph to it?
No. I definitely add, there is a force value for the blade itself, and then it gets applied based on the velocity, but it's still multiplied a bunch. All the actual weights and forces, it was all just me winging it from from the very beginning. I had no idea what those values should be, so I've been just tuning them as I add everything after each other so it feels good. So if you actually looked at the values, they make no sense, but it somehow works out. Okay, that's mad scientist approach.
This is the dirty trick of all game balance. It's we're all we don't know, it just worked. And we just kind of every time you make it, you're okay, this didn't work, but it was really close. Make the number higher. That really is the game of design and balance. Is tweak number, try again. Tweak number, try again.
100%. Yeah, if I look at anything the spiders relative to everything else in the game, they're actually really, really heavy because it felt better. And then naturally, because of that, I had to go and multiply all the forces in really weird ways so that it sort of makes sense. There are edge cases where, if you pay attention, it doesn't make sense that the physics work out that way. But most people don't know.
So let's kind of talk. We've talked about conceptually, kind of mechanics of the game, but we really talk about kind of what is the game flow, right? So obviously it is a 1 to 4 person fight game, right? I'm trying to think about a term. It's this
fight game, yes.
Yeah. Kind of go head and a head game. So can we talk about kind of so when a bunch of players get around, then kind of what is the goal? Just kill each other, most points win? Like, what is kind of that?
Last one standing wins. The rounds go really, really, really quick. Sometimes it can be over in 5 seconds. And then whoever gets to the set score first wins. That's it. There's also a PvE mode.
Yeah, let's talk
where
about
you bomb enemies.
Yeah, let's talk about that PvE mode then, kind of. So obviously, a problem I think with a lot of games of not just this ilk, but like this kind of like thing is like, okay, great, but what do I do when I don't have friends around? So I would love to talk about kind of like how kind of you design this PvE mode and kind of how it works.
Yeah, it actually grew exactly from that, where it was SpiderHeck was originally intended as a local multiplayer only game, and then you put it on a PC website. Local gaming is not that big of a thing on PC, and everyone starts asking for what do I do if I have no friends, and then I had to figure out a way to have a local multiplayer, well, not a local multiplayer, but like a PvE game. Sorry. What was the question again?
Can we talk about the PvP? So, like, who am I facing? Kind of like.
Okay,
maybe someone hasn't seen this. Like, what is? It's not like PvP. You kind of picture spiders with laser swords, but the PvE gets a little more interesting, I think.
Yeah. So, who are we facing? I thought the first thing I added was I thought spider's natural enemy clearly a wasp. So it was something resembling a wasp with a blade. Another reason why it's a wasp is because I couldn't figure out how to make spider because the game has a pretty advanced traversal system, so I can't have so to do enemy AI spiders, you have to have really fancy AI with all the wall running and web swinging. So instead, I was like, well, a wasp flies, movement's going to be easier, so I made wasps. And so ever since then, all enemies have been flying.
I just want to point out to everyone too, people would be surprised how often the decision made is because it was easier. And that's a good example of like, oh, you can make it make a lot of sense, but like in the moment you're like, I can't do this pathfinding. Great, let's just let them fly. Like it's kind of this very like fun challenge of like, what can I realistically do then, since I don't think I could solve this problem.
Yeah, and it's a lot of it has been like that. It's also like if I didn't do it this way, it would have also been limiting, because now levels can be way crazier now because I don't have to account for AI traversing them. So that gives me quite a lot of freedom there as well. And yeah.
So Wasp PvE. The other thing I think that I think stood out kind of when I was looking at the game, right? So we keep able to leave swords like it's one weapon. You actually kind of you've talked about kind of there's this like level up system and kind of a multitude of weapons. If we kind of dig in a bit more on that, kind of like what was your ethos, kind of not just creating this like static head-to-head game, kind of adding a little more kind of back-end mechanics to it.
Yeah, a big inspiration, as we say, for me has been Duck Game. That's like one of my favorite multiplayer games, and it has a variety of crazy weapons. And a part of the fun in that game for me is, initially at least, was I don't know what this weapon does. Let's press a button and figure it out. And I've kind of went with a similar approach here, where I tried my best to make every weapon work in some way, in some unique way, and have some hidden tricks attached to it. Which with the physics system is actually kind of surprisingly easy to do. With when there's crazy recoil, suddenly you can rocket jump and stuff. And another key element when adding all these weapons, because a lot of people ask me about straight away is balancing. Is another thing I took from Duck Game is everything is one hit death. So I can do like the weirdest weapon, it's still gonna work on some degree, just because you just have to hit them once.
That's an interesting design challenge to me, right? Because obviously, like the biggest combo when people think guns is you think of its range, its fire rate, and then its damage, right? So now inherently that damage part of that equation is gone. So it makes stuff like submachine guns, which is obviously like when you think of gun types, so that's a kind of common one. Now in this game, like the most powerful, because like,
and that's why they don't exist.
Right. Because now anything with rapid fire rate just is OP. Like I'm kind of curious, kind of how much, because obviously you changed what you would put in the game. So I'm kind of curious, kind of like how much of that really affected what you couldn't do.
Well, as you said, some machine guns. I have strayed away from machine guns and weapons like that. But another mechanic that ends up helping the balancing here is I tried to go for very limited ammo counts for everything, so that Even if you have the best weapon, it might have just 2 shots. And then you're again unarmed, and you're now have to use the movement mechanics to go and find another weapon as you're panicking, running away from another armed enemy. So in essence, it ends up working like every weapon is overpowered, but it's also very limited.
That is such a fun kind of, like, any game like that, I think, is always that fun level of, like, now everything can be stupid, because you're like, it doesn't matter. Just hit.
Yep. And, the toughest one to balance has been, I have this, like, I call it a rail revolver, because it used to be like a railgun, but now the projectile is so slow that it doesn't really work as a railgun, but the name stays. And, yeah, that one had, like, 6 shots and 1 hit kill, and you can just, like, if you aim right, it ends up really, really, really powerful. So I have to go back and just slow down the projectile quite a lot to even make it balanced at all. Because, like, anything that, like, can guarantee the hit, straight away, you're in trouble.
Yeah, that is funny. It's almost like you almost want there to be some sort of homing thing. Like, in my head, there'd be, like, one homing weapon, but, like, it takes so long to load that, like, it's stupid.
So for the full game, like, it's not a homing weapon. What I have is one laser that goes through walls. But you have to charge it like 3 seconds, and it has 1 shot. That's the closest thing to what you're describing.
Yeah, that's such a, like, it reminds me of, is it in Killer Queen, kind of like how you have, like, the distraction, all this stuff happening. It's kind of like one of those, you just need everyone else to be playing, and you're kind of in the corner being like, I'm ready. Like, I'd be kind of curious, kind of, like, once the full game comes out, if that, like, you have those moments of, like, kind of one-player strategies just to be in the corner just waiting. Like, just
well, I think the maps are too small to be in the corner to just waiting, and it's too chaotic. But yeah, it will be interesting to see. That's the one weapon where I'm slightly worried what it's going to do. But it's another balancing aspect is spawn rate. So not all weapons have the same chance to appear. So even if maybe something is too broken, it can always be this rare thing that happens only in some matches. Yeah,
so as we're talking, the only thing I'd point out is obviously that we're talking. The game is not out yet. The game comes out at an unknown date, I think, is currently kind of how it looks like online. I'm assuming it's staying that way.
This year. Likely.
Okay. What can someone kind of expect kind of when the game comes out? Is there a roadmap kind of, even if just internal, for like post-content plans? Or is that still is that still a bit in the air kind of as you're finishing up development of the game?
Yeah, post-content plans, we have to see how it does, right? And then go from there. Because for me, like, a big problem for having, like, concrete plans for future is the game has evolved to have a lot of directions it could go into. One is we have the PvP mode, which, by the way, we're just now playtesting online with it, which is an interesting experience with a physics game. We have the PvE mode, where you fight the waves of enemies, and you get the level. There's the level up system with the perks and everything. Then there's another mode, which is variation of that, where you're alone and with 1 life and really, really hard challenges, which for some reason my community really loves pain. And then in the lobby, there's also a hidden, slightly, air quotes, hidden, like a rage platformer bit, which I made initially as a joke to hurt people in my community, but they also seem to be loving that. So a lot of it's going to be seeing where the traction is on release, what are people the most excited about, and we will need to actually adjust, I think, whatever the plans are to that a bit more.
Yeah, that's it is fascinating. Kind of like, I think this, like, when games come out, especially yours, kind of, you're talking about those multiple modes. It's kind of like this fun thing of, you're like, well, like in most of his head, well, you're like, well, obviously we'd put content like on levels or those things, but yeah, now that you have like this multiple mode, you really kind of have to watch. Kind of where do people care, right? It's this line of, like, not just where do I care, where do people care, and then what makes it kind of worth it.
Oh yeah. Like, I mean, I might have a wish list on the size of the wall behind my computer of stuff I would want to put in there, but it's a very small team, and the resources limited, so I need to figure out what the community wants at that stage, which is how the development has gone so far, because it's been fairly public, where I've been releasing test versions online since, I don't know, like, it must have been 2 years now. Yeah. And
how often do you go back to that initial, like, build and go, wow, the game does not look the same? Because, like, that's any game. It's always like, how off were we?
Oh, a lot. If we go even before the public test versions, I mean, at some point this was a puzzle platformer. At some point, um,
That is way
but
different. That is kind of like that is I see this battle game. And you're like, this was a puzzle platform. I'm like, I'm sorry, what?
yeah. But then I realized that I have no idea how I would market a puzzle platformer when other amazing games exist. So I was like, well, I can make a fun game where you play with friends, because every game is more fun with friends. So that seems like an easier target, and it seems to work out.
I was gonna say, yeah, it looks exciting. As we said, the game is coming out some point this year. We're gonna nicely call it.
Yeah.
Like any good game dev, that's a giant asterisk until we have a release date and a final build.
As I said, the playtests are ongoing right now,
Right.
so it could be that those playtests have certain amount of feedback that suddenly makes me revisit something, but probably.
Like any good game dev, you're always like, it'll come out, and then you're like, not when I said.
Yeah.
But with that being in mind, thank you for taking time to talk to me today. Where should we be sending people if they're curious about the game?
To the Steam page, I'd say. It's under SpiderHeck. And there is, I don't know, how long what's the delay on these things coming out?
Probably like 2 weeks, probably from when we're recording, that's my guess.
Okay, so playtest will be over, but there will be a demo there available. And that has a decent amount of content, and it can be enjoyed alone or locally with your friends next to you on a couch or something like that.
And final question I have for you then is, do you have any clue kind of pricing on the game yet? Or is that still kind of in the air as development's happening?
That is a little bit in the air. It's just we'll look at similar games in the genre and probably price similarly. But we need to see how that multiplayer works out, because it's a physics game, and online multiplayer is tough. So if we can get it to good enough quality, I think then that would be different, and the other way as well.
Perfect. Well, thank you again for taking time out of your evening, I think, or night, to talk to me today. Best of luck, kind of, as you finish up development and go through the testing, especially as you said, physics and online. Best friends in the making, we're going to call them.
Yeah, love it. It's been great.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me on. This was interesting. First experience on a podcast. Wow. Thank you.
The SWW show and all of its affiliate podcasts are podcast by me, Mike Maroney, and AJ Losi, sometimes by our contributors, including Corey King. You can follow the SWW show on social media at the SWW show, or sooner or later you go to patreon.com/SWW to help us out. Thank you, and we hope you enjoy the rest of your day.